Napoli fans around the world, welcome to Napoli Talk. And as you see from your screens, Napoli has been eliminated from the Coppa Italia. Another elimination in the round of 16. Welcome to the stream. And guys, let me get the video up and going. But guys, it's incredible. It's incredible that it is another year where this happens. Guys, sorry for the glasses. My eyes are tired and I forgot to take these off. But I don't want to be on the stream with my glasses. It's another year where we get battered at this stage of the competition in the Coppa Italia. One way or another, the defeats always feel crushing, whether it's because of the scoreline or the opponent. In this case, it was the scoreline. The opponent, Lazio, they put out their strongest team, more or less. And actually, some of the players that did not get a lot of minutes in that Lazio side today, when they were integrated with another 7, 8 components of the team that do play regularly, they shined. And case in point is Noslin, who scored a hat trick. He is not someone that plays regularly for Lazio, but you put a talented player. For example, we have Neres. You put a talented player like that with another 7 or 8 starters, and these players can elevate their game, and show that actually they're maybe, knocking on the doors of being a starter. And they've got something that, hey, maybe the coach needs to take a look at this guy. What you absolutely cannot do, in my opinion, is do what Conte did, which is put 11 of these guys all together. 11 players who never played together, who some of them are in the wrong position. Like Zerbin as a right back in a four-man defense, Spinazzola in a four-man defense, not ideal. Juan Jesus on a football field, not ideal. That's not what his profession should be. Ngonje taking the place of Neres, who actually is much better on the right, but Conte insists on having him on the left. I mean, look, Ngonje, if you're gonna put Ngonje on the right and remove Neres from his best position, Ngonje better have a good game, but he didn't. So you wasted now 2 wingers because Ngonje didn't perform, and Neres is not in his ideal position. Neres in the end did do a good game, but what I'm saying is that I would rather see him on the right, so that he can cut inside on the left. In the end of the day, guys, the players that played a little bit better in our team are the ones that have been getting a few more minutes regularly with the team in recent weeks. Neres, Simeone, Gilmore was okay, Folorunsho was okay, because they had moments throughout the season where they were able to get some minutes, right? But then the other guys, Raspadori, Juan Jesus, Rafa Marin, Spinazzola, like these guys have not seen the field in months, right? And it's very clear that they were not ready to play a team like Lazio. Definitely, they were not ready to um, not only play a team like Lazio, but also, you know, play with guys that maybe they're not used to playing with regularly, right? So yeah, it was tough. And look, I'm gonna go straight to the player ratings, and then we'll do the analysis of the game later. But these are my player ratings. As I said, the ones that played a bit better, let's say the 5 that didn't get a red score, are the type of players that we saw a bit more often this season. Neres, Simeone, Gilmore played those 3 games. Folorunsho has been coming on more or less. Caprile with the penalty save. I could have given Caprile a bit more, but he didn't convince me all that much. I mean, yeah, it's good to save penalties, it's super important, but those kind of things happen once every 15 games, no? What I look at is more on the more regular things that happen during the game. There, I mean, he conceded the penalty, maybe a bit harsh to penalize him there, but there were other moments where I wasn't entirely convinced with how he tried to handle the ball. So yeah, I mean, he passes, it's a six, but nothing special. Likewise, Gilmore, Foloruncio, nothing special, but they pass. And I mean, thank God we had Simeone and Neres on the field today, so that at least there was something happening in attack. The subs, look, I'm not gonna give them a rating because they came on, it was 3-1 already. You know, that's it. Um, I'm gonna give Conte a three, guys. Here's why. I think this risks him losing the dressing room, or let's say half of the dressing room. You have to think that these 11 players that you see here starting are already on the fringe of the project. Think that Conte does not even utilize all five substitutions normally. Sometimes he only stops at four. Okay? So you have a lot of these players who are desperate for minutes, desperate to impress the coach, and they were not put in the right condition to impress Conte today by Conte himself. Um, because, for example, if Engonje wants to impress Conte, the best way for him to do that is to play with the other 10 starters, right? And have quality players around him, feeding him quality passes, etc., etc. So these players, yes, they want minutes on the field, but ideally they would like minutes in a context where they can actually express themselves at their maximum. In this context of today, it's the worst possible scenario because you're playing, and so the coach is like, well, I let you play, but you're playing with people that they don't put you in the best spots. There's a lot of incomprehension between people, all that kind of stuff. So and they could resent Conte for this, and that means that one day when one of these players is needed by Conte because of, I don't know, someone gets a flu, someone gets injured or whatever, this player, not that he won't purposely give it his everything, but you will see that the level at which he trains over the next few weeks might drop because he's put in a stinker of a performance. He's out of the Coppa Italia. He's thinking in his head, when am I ever going to see the field again? And so naturally, your the intensity at which you train goes down because you're demotivated. Then when Conte needs some of these players, they haven't been training at the highest level, and who's going to pay the price? It's going to be Conte himself. It's going to be Napoli. And if these guys are not motivated to train, guess what? The starters also get impacted by that because the starters train against these guys, and so these guys need to be at their maximum. How do you keep these guys at their maximum? By giving them fair opportunities, by not humiliating them, by putting this 11 all together, because this is a humiliation. Look, Conte, in my opinion, Conte would have done a much better job if yesterday in the press conference he said, guys, tomorrow, Thursday night, just go out and have a pizza. Don't watch the game. It's not worth your time. I will put the weakest possible team that I can physically put without recurring to the youth team. But this is the weakest possible 11 he could have possibly put. Okay? The only thing that could have made this worse is someone else instead of Caprile, like Raspadori instead of Caprile. That would have been worse. Fair enough. But you know what I mean. So What do you expect by putting out your worst possible 11? And I'm just worried that this is going to lose a big chunk of the dressing room, and that's going to have an effect on our season whenever we might need these players, and also on the general quality of the trainings that will happen from now on. Um, Look, it's also not respectful towards the fans, I don't think, because, okay, Rome is not too far away from Naples, but still, fans travel, they go there, they spend their money, they spend their time. People turn on their TV on a work week. Um, People sacrifice their time, their money, and I think a coach should not disrespect that. There's no need to play this starting 11 because, I mean, we don't play other cup competitions. This is, we're just playing the league and the Coppa Italia, which is like 3 games, five games, the Coppa Italia. You know, we can definitely handle that. And I don't want to think that Conte was trying to send a message to De Laurentiis, because he said in the press conference, uh, not this week, but I think the week before, he said, we have to buy players in the transfer market if we make it to the European competitions. Essentially saying, if we play midweek, I need other types of players. I need better players. Now, does Conte did Conte try to prove his point with this formation? If he did, is he stupid? Because you don't need to put out this formation on an actual field to prove that it's not good enough. You can just take a look at the photo here and say, yeah, this team is not good enough. You don't need the evidence, you know? Just put their names on a piece of paper and you have your answer. Why you have to go and physically prove that point? We're not, this isn't the scientific method. You don't have to prove your hypothesis. Bro, just put their names down on a piece of paper. I trust you. I trust you, bro. If you tell me these guys are not good enough, trust me, we know. Manna knows. De Laurentiis knows. I mean, we know the level of Juan Jesus. You don't have to put him in December of 2024 on a football field to prove your point. We know he's bad. So why? Why he needs to, why he might want to prove this point? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And I really hope that this is not the case. I really hope that Conte can sit down at a table with Manna and De Laurentiis and say, these 7 players, I don't like them, we need to sell them. And Conte and Manna say, yeah, you're right. They're pretty awful players. And they come to that agreement in about 2 seconds, right? Um, so yeah, I don't know why he might feel the need that, oh, I need to put them on a field to actually prove this point. And look, I'm reading some comments now. Let me get to the comments. There's Francisco or Francisco Marcucci says, Dom, who cares? We're playing Lazio on Sunday. Look, I disagree but completely. I disagree completely with this statement about who cares. But so completely, because I told you all the reasons why this is an important game. Because these players will be criticized, they will be demotivated. That has an impact on the entire mood of the squad. If you think that winning a game just takes 11 players, you're completely off. But so off. Guys, to win a Scudetto, everybody needs to be pointing in the right direction. The starters, the guys on the bench, the chef making the food, the guy washing your clothes, the taxi driver that brings you to the training ground. Everything needs to be so spot on. People's moods have to be so good. And the environment has to be so good to create that group atmosphere that will allow players to perform at a certain level. Because guess what? We don't have the best players in this area. So we need those extra things going for us. We need things like team spirit. We need things like training sessions at 120% intensity. And guess what? You're not going to get those elements if you demoralize players like this. It's half the squad. He didn't demoralize two players, he demoralized half the squad. So, and I disagree. I disagree that this is an opportunity for these players. This was a death sentence for these players. A death sentence, guys. You put one of these players, as I said, maybe Zerbin. You take Zerbin, you put him in a context where he's with other 10 players that are strong, and he will actually maybe give you a performance. And we saw that against Fiorentina last year in the Supercoppa, where he came on and scored that goal, scored twice. But he was playing with other good quality players. You put him next to 10 chairs, and guess what? He's not going to be able to show his worth. His worth might be a 6 out of 10, but trust me, in this context, it will be a 5 at most that you'll see. And probably you'll see a 3 out of 10. So, yeah. And look, I don't care about Lazio played more starters. Lazio, guys, you have to understand, I don't really care about the Coppa Italia. I'm not mad about going out of the Coppa Italia. I'm mad at the way we went out of the Coppa Italia because I think it could have an impact on our season in the Serie A. Guys, I'm trying to make you guys see the connection. These are not isolated events, okay? It's not about, oh, we play Lazio in the it's not FIFA. It's not like, oh, I skip this game. I simulate this game and then I think about the next one. Guys, it doesn't work like that. These are players that are 24/7 influencing each other. And I don't want to be in that dressing room today with the mood that some of these 11 players will have had coming out of that game, thinking that, man, I'm never going to see a football field for the next 6 months at this club. That's a heavy mood to be in because we don't have other competitions to play. And somehow these guys are going to have to find a way to motivate themselves because you cannot do training sessions with 11 players. You need 22. And all 22 need to be performing well in training. Guys, connect the dots, okay? Connect the dots. Um, so, yeah, look, I'm disappointed with Conte because this is something that I don't expect from an experienced manager, but to some extent Conte is ruthless and he it potentially did this to drive a point that we need more quality in the team, more depth, all that. Again, I hope that's not the truth because I hope that he can just have a conversation with De Laurentiis and Manna without having to actually prove it on the field that he doesn't like certain players. Guys, I don't know. Today, I'm more upset today than some of the things that happened last year, because last year we were bad, okay? We were horrible. And losing one game or losing five or losing 10 or losing 20, I mean, we were horrible and that's it. We would stay horrible. But now I feel like we have something that works. We have momentum. We have, and then the toy breaks. Maybe it doesn't break, eh? Maybe we go on Sunday and we beat Lazio, then the next game we win again, and then everyone's happy, right? But potentially, this doesn't happen. Potentially, this doesn't happen. And it's a risk that we took. And what's more is that we could win against Lazio on Sunday. But you see, these kind of results are a bit like, when you have a rope and the rope is pretty chunky, but there's individual fibers, right? And the fibers start breaking a little bit at a time when you start pulling it. This loss is a bit like that. We might not see the effect immediately. We might still get away. There might still be tension in the rope for the next few games. But as I said, if 11 players start losing their motivation, over time, that's going to impact the entire team. So, yeah. And look, I understand the point here, okay, about look, and I'm pointing to Francisco's comments a lot because I started kind of the conversation saying I disagree with him. So let me continue the conversation and let me understand, let me get his rebuttal. No, Francisco says, Dom, as we all say, we can't risk anyone from our starting 11. That's a fair point, okay? That's a fair point. But then don't make subs. Then don't make subs. Because if you don't want to risk anyone from the starting 11, why are you bringing on Politano, McTominay, Di Lorenzo, Lukaku, and Lobotka, the five players that are the spine of your team, the five players that Conte really cares about? Because let's face it, it's these five. Kvara is not part of these five. If Conte had to pick five players from which he could, if De Laurenti said, I'm selling everybody, keep five players, these are the five that Conte would pick. I'm pretty sure. Maybe Buongiorno might sneak in front of one of these five. But it's these, huh? I mean, these are the five most important players for Conte. Politano never gets substituted, pretty much. I mean, he does when his lungs basically explode. McTominay, we literally changed our entire formation just to accommodate McTominay. Di Lorenzo, our captain, and Conte did everything he could to keep him at the club last summer. Lukaku, he did everything he could to get Lukaku in. And Lobotka, I mean, Lobotka is Lobotka. He's the central part of the team. Without Lobotka, we saw how much we struggled with Gilmore. Kvara's replaceable for Conte, eh? We've seen it this season with a few substitutions here and there that Kvara's replaceable. So if you were worried about getting your best players injured, then why do you risk your best players for even just 20 minutes when the game is already lost? Because that's 3-1, and you can put these five players, but you still have another six that are pretty average on the field. So it's very unlikely you're going to change the game. If you really didn't want to risk your starters, then you keep them on the bench. You keep your five best players, according to you, on the bench the entire game. And potentially you play these 90 minutes without making any subs, because if you told yourself, screw it, I don't care about the Coppa Italia, then fine. You'll just lose 3-1 without trying to change anything. I mean, if you want to leave, then leave the Coppa Italia. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm very conflicted because on the one hand, I'm glad, guys, I'm glad that no player got injured from our starting 11. Trust me, man, I would have been maybe even more upset if we played, I don't know, McTominay and then he got injured, from the start. But still, I think there could have been a different approach. There could have been a different approach. There could have been at least four people from the first starting 11 into this team. I mean, you cannot put the poor Rafa Marin, who's on his second game with the club, next to Juan Jesus and Zerbin. I mean, how is this kid going to prove himself? How are we going to know if he's any good if you play him next to Dumb and Dumber, how's he gonna feel about this opportunity? Guys, I mean, it's unfair. It's completely unfair, in my opinion. Um, so, so yeah. No, I did not try to put Rahmani as one of our most important players. I did not say that. I didn't even mention Rahmani. I said Buongiorno maybe would be the sixth one in there for Conte. Anyways, guys, let me get to some other comments and then we'll go through a bit the game. Laurenti says our back line was awful today. Billy and Neres were great though. I wouldn't say Billy was great, and Neres was pretty good. Neres, I think even a 6.5 is a bit harsh on him. Maybe even a 7. Um, but yeah, Billy was okay. I mean, there was nothing I think too special about his game. Um, and he says that we have great staff, especially Lele Reali, to keep up the motivation. I don't know, man. I mean, at the end of the day, players want to play. Players want to play, you know? And look, now with the Coppa Italia gone, these players have nothing to look forward to because Conte does not trust them for the league. And so the one bit of hope that they had, that they were clinging on to, that they were getting ready for, that they were training hard for, that's out the window now. I think this is a horrible piece of man management, but really bad. It's something that I haven't seen in a long time. And I think, look, you can do this against Palermo, who's in Serie B. And actually, it would have the opposite effect because, as we've seen, you play these guys against Palermo, they win, they score goals, they feel like kings, they're happy, everything's great. You can do that against Palermo in Serie B. You cannot do that against Lazio, who's having as good of a Serie A campaign as they've ever had, essentially. I don't know. I don't know, guys. I don't know. Guys, I'm reading your comments, by the way. I'm scrolling through. I'm scrolling through the comments. Let me pick some out. Why no Kvara? He rested Kvara, clearly. Great penalty save from Capriles, says Paul. Exquisite passes from Gilmore and Neres. Negative, the squad isn't strong enough. Maybe Conte sending a message. Yeah, we spoke about that. Uh, maybe I maybe I didn't see something about Gilmore today. I don't know, but I um, I thought it was a good game, a solid game, like a yeah, like a 6 out of 10. You know, like he did his job. I don't think this is one of the games where he'll look back and be like, yeah, that's a game I want to remember. Um, yeah, I think the two midfielders were just they were okay. Nothing great, nothing bad. Just yeah, just good. Um, Viero says, Dom, I can only answer the poll after the match on Sunday. Forza Napoli. Let's end the poll, guys. It's about 60% have responded saying no to the answer, to the question, sorry. So the question was, did Conte do the right thing in, you know, sacrificing the Coppa Italia? 60% say no, but look, it's pretty tight. It's pretty tight, 60 to 40. Matt says, not you, Dom. Maybe he's referring to like not me also being mad at the Coppa Italia exit, but look, I mean, it's also a trophy, right? It's also a trophy that is potentially up for grabs. I mean, why is a club like Napoli snubbing a trophy? I mean, it's not like we have a huge amount, you know what I mean? I could understand if Inter snub it because Inter have bigger targets to go for. You know, they want to get the Champions League this year. They're in a good position. With Man City not being great, they're in a really good position. I think it's between them and Liverpool this season, and Barcelona. But yeah, I mean, I can understand if Inter sacrificed the Coppa Italia as they're playing three competitions and they have to play the FIFA Club World Cup, so they're playing four. But us? Nah, man, nah. You can't snub this. You can't snub this trophy. Also because winning helps to win, you know? And it helps attract players to your club if you have trophies. No one guarantees us the Scudetto, but the Coppa Italia, you just have to win 5 games. It's not as bad. Fabrizio says strange match, but Neres good. Yeah, Neres was good. Um, I believe we should sell Raspadori if we can in January. I think so. I think he's one of the first out the door. And look, I feel for Raspadori a little bit because to some extent we can all relate a little bit to Raspadori. Maybe not all. Maybe I'm biased, but when he's that typical kid at school, who's like a B minus type of guy, like a classic, like, okay, I'll get a 6 out of 10 or 7 out of 10 in all my classes. A B, like, just kind of, but he's not great at anything. And that's what I feel like Raspadori is. He's like a decent guy. He's like a decent, you know, yeah, he can kind of play striker. He can kind of play left wing. He can kind of play right wing, kind of play as a number 10, but he's never going to be a real striker, a real winger, a real number 10. And so when he plays in that position, you always reminisce about, "Ah, I remember that one number 10 that we had, or I remember that winger that we had. It's so much better than him. Kvara so much better than him. Simeone so much better than him as a striker. Yeah. And Elmas was so much better than him. You always think about someone else. And and yeah, I mean, he's just, uh being compared to someone who's like very specialized in his in a specific position. So it's a bit tough for Raspadori. But yeah, but yeah. Um, Lazio played their backups too, says Primo Calcio. I don't know, man. Lazio had a lot of a lot of starters still. They had Zaccagni, Isai, which I mean it's crazy, but I mean Isai has been a regular at Lazio. Who else? Pedro. They had a fair few strikers, a fair few starters. Sorry, um, and that really helped some of the other guys be integrated. Um, so yeah, look, Raspan Simeone 2 seasons ago is what I reminisce about Dom. Yeah, look, I mean, it's it goes back to kind of the idea of the team environment. 2 years ago, they were building something quite special, and Spalletti was doing a super good job giving everybody an opportunity to participate, and even making some very interesting and tough calls. For example, in the game against Roma, it's tied 1-1 and Spalletti takes off Osimhen and puts on Simeone. With the game tied 1-1 against a team like Roma, you know? He puts on Simeone. What does Simeone do? He goes and scores. And not in the last 5 minutes. He takes Osimhen off with 20 minutes to go in the game. And in an interview a few months later, Simeone talks about that game and he says, when Spalletti told me to come on, against Roma for Osimhen with 20 minutes to go, I looked at him and I thought, oh my God, 20 minutes. Wow, that's incredible. For me, that's like an entire game. It's the opportunity I've been waiting for. It's the opportunity of a life, and he had people feel important, and he felt like Spalletti trusted him enough, that he saw for that game, he saw something in Simeone that maybe Osimhen didn't have, you know? And not just, oh, yeah, but I see this, but let me just put him on for 5 minutes because I'm scared. No, no, I'll put him on for 20, you know? And so everybody felt part of the team. And then things, because of because of that atmosphere and because of that mindset, then things actually work out. And when they work out, it improves the atmosphere. And when it improves the atmosphere, things work out even more and it creates a positive cycle. You know, here I worry about the opposite. I worry that players don't feel important. Because they don't feel important, they play worse. Because they play worse, they don't feel important, and so on. And it's a negative spiral. Um, yeah, look, I'm a big believer in the whole idea of confidence and motivation and stuff like that when it comes to sport. I think it's huge. It's a huge factor that I think gets overlooked, and it requires very good man management, something that Spalletti had, and Conte. He's got his soldiers. He's a little bit like Sarri. Sarri was the exact same. Um, and that maybe allows you to do incredible seasons like we did have with Sarri. But ultimately, how sustainable is it? And yeah, how sustainable is it, right? To always rely on 13 players. Can we build a squad where Conte can rely on 20? I mean, he already spent 150 million euros this summer. You know, do we have to go and spend another 150 million euros next summer? And it's not an easy thing to do, to build a team. Um, yeah, it's not an easy thing to do. But it's clear that Conte looks at 7 of these guys on your screens and he doesn't like them. Look, I'll go through very quickly the analysis of the game. So first of all, what I didn't like was that we were quite tight and dropped back a lot. I mean, look, the fact that we were tight, I liked it. That's what she said. Um, sorry. But the fact that we were tight is something that I like. I can't not smile saying that. Napoli was tight. Let me put it that way. Napoli was tight, and it's good. It's good. It's good to be tight. This is, I'm not escaping this. I can't not make myself laugh at this. But Napoli's lines were tight, and it's a good thing. Okay, so that's not bad. But what I didn't like is that we were too deep. Okay, and yeah, too defensive from the get go. We were too squished at the back. Yeah, I didn't like the way the game was going. Seeing how far back our guys were, and we weren't pushing Lazio. So yeah, and then look, we had some chances, right? And I think we wasted them. And I think some of the players that we have in the team, they continuously prove that they don't. They continuously prove that they don't improve. Okay. Last time Ngonje played, I told you guys that he doesn't know how to read the game. Okay? That, yeah, he's technically very good, but often he's at the wrong place at the right time. He's at the wrong place. Yeah, he's at the wrong place at the right time. Um, Second off, he doesn't look up. This guy, like, he tells himself, I'm going to dribble this player. And for the next 5 seconds, all he can think about is, I'm going to dribble this player. And he doesn't look to see during these 5 seconds if something else has changed. Here you have, for example, Folorunsho making a run. You could play the pass directly horizontally towards Folorunsho. If you spotted him a bit earlier, you would have been able to put that right to his feet. Or if you wait a split second, you could feed that into the run of Folorunsho. But I don't even think he sees him. I think he's so focused on dribbling the Lazio player that's all he thinks about, and then he loses the ball, right? And that's something that I see with Ngonja all the time, all the time. Let's move on. Uh, Look, Juan Jesus, okay? He's got 6 feet or 2 meters of gap between himself and the Lazio player. I think it's Pedro, who, by the way, is like 50 years old. So we're not talking about, I don't know, Speedy Gonzalez running up behind him. We're talking about a 50-year-old guy. And yet, he manages to get the jump on Juan Jesus. Caprile has to come out, makes the foul. Not ideal. I think this this is why I didn't rate Caprile very high, and I'm not convinced by him. Look, the only thing that Pedro in this position of the field can do with Caprile coming out is to take the ball wide, basically going towards the corner area. And I like he's so far away from the goal that I don't think Caprile needs to make an intervention there. I think Caprile can kind of dive and purposely miss both the ball and the player, and just force Pedro wide, but not actually risk touching the player, and just put him in a position where he's not as much of a threat, and then get back to his goal. Or I think there was just a lot more to be done here, because I don't see this as a threatful position. And I think a smarter goalkeeper would not have gone down like that, trying to win the ball at this point. And look, you see this from very inexperienced goalkeepers, but the top goalkeepers, no way they do this, from such a side angle. Yeah, I I I think he could have done much better here. But he luckily saves this shot. So congrats to Caprile for that one. Then we get to the goal, guys. Look, we're zonal marking, okay? So quick lesson on zonal marking. If you're the attacking team, you either put the ball at the front post, or you put the ball far at the second post, okay? Because when you man mark, sorry, when you zonal mark, those are two areas of the field that never get taken up. Um, so yeah, like zonally, you would never cover anything after the penalty uh, spot. So what do Lazio do? Obviously, they play the ball there. Why? Because it's a free header. And then when the other thing that you have to remember when you mark zonally is to remember that you have to defend as a block when you mark zonally. And defending as a block means that you have to remember about the offside flag, or about the offside. You have to move as a unit. Raspadori stays deep when everybody else has pushed up. It allows Noslin than to make the run in behind and score the goal with the header. And Raspadori at this point, when this ball is being played, he's now trying to run back into position, whereas he should be thinking, I've already screwed this up. I've already lost the opportunity to play the offside flag. Let me make life difficult for the striker. Instead, he gets caught in no man's land, and it allows Noslin to take the header. He's too late. He's too late. But guys, I mean, Raspadori is not a defender, but still, these are things that I don't know. In training, I get it. You're not a defender, but neither am I. You know, and I know this. So like, come on, man, dude. You gotta be switched on. So yeah. But look, thank God we had Neres today because I mean he was great. He won the ball here, gets past a player, takes the shot, and the goalie saves it. It's a very good shot, low towards the corner. The goalie saves it, doesn't do enough to push it out of danger, and Simeone responds. That's what you get from Simeone. You get someone that's always there to respond. And look, the whole Neres thing, yeah, maybe he doesn't track back as much as Conte would like, but he's a type of guy, Neres, that would actually like go and tackle people in the midfield, because it's easy, I think, to just, okay, we don't have the ball, let's run back and be next to the right back or left back, and let's pretend to defend. Another thing is to say, no, you know what, I'm actually gonna go and press and get stuck in, you know? Because for example, Engonje runs back, but he doesn't really actually do anything, he just gets into position. Whereas Neres doesn't run back as far, but if he smells a bit of a situation where he could latch onto, he'll go and do it. So yeah, look, the goal from Simeone, but then Raspadori loses this ball here, passes it to nobody. I don't even know if to blame him, to be honest. I mean, why is Raspadori even in this position? This is not an area of the field that he's used to, you know? And you could think, oh, but surely passing it doesn't matter at what part of the field you are. A pass is a pass. No, it's disorientating being in a new area of the field. Um, you're in a context that you're not really comfortable in, with people pressing you in a different type of way that maybe normally you're used to. And I'm not trying to justify Raspadori because I mean I gave him a really bad score today, but I'm just saying, look, it doesn't help, to play him in such a deep position. So, anyways, Raspadori here loses the ball. It goes to his eye. His eye sets off, I believe it's Zaccagni, who passes it to Pedro. Pedro super smartly lays it off with his heel to Noslin, who does a shimmy on an oncoming Spinazzola and gets it past Caprile. Then we have a chance to equalize at 2-2 with Simeone, but the goalkeeper makes an incredible save with his foot. The second half starts. Again, Raspadori is caught, not in an ideal place for himself. He has to defend here. I think it's against Zaccagni. Can't remember. Probably it is. He gets passed by Zaccagni. Zaccagni is able to cross the ball, and Spinazzola and Juan Jesus don't do enough to cover the space in between themselves. And Noslin gets a header. Juan Jesus tries to put a foot in to stop it, but it goes in anyways. It's not an own goal because I think the ball would have gone in anyways. But yeah, guys, so that's what happened. Let me see what Conte had to say as we approach the 50-minute mark, guys. If you have enjoyed this live stream, if you're still here listening to me, then I urge you to smash that like button. It's really for me, for me doing this on a weekday, even though Napoli lost. And it's not a like for Napoli or for the result or anything like that. Um, it's for our therapy session. Okay, this is how you pay your therapist on YouTube. You put a like. Okay. Let's see what Conte had to say. Um, he says, so they ask him, in light of the result, would you do the same formation? And he says, look, it's not like we played to lose. If we had, um, let me read what he says. Yeah, look, he says, we did a very thought out decision. Against Palermo, we did the same thing. And look, I already commented about why against Palermo it's different. He says there's a long season ahead, and we just have to. Um, he says there's a long season ahead. We cannot just have our fingers crossed that nobody gets hurt. What does Conte mean by this? He means, look, there's a long season ahead. We cannot just hope that nobody gets hurt. Therefore, I need De Laurentiis to buy some players in January because I cannot play these guys in case someone gets hurt. If you read between the lines, that's what Conte is saying. Um, he says, we've been lucky so far that only Mazzocchi has been injured. Um, the players, these guys, they deserved an occasion, and it's sad that we weren't able to win, but the game was very balanced on statistically. I mean, look, if you saw the game, you would know that the game was not balanced. The only reason why it was slightly balanced was because Neres decided to be a phenomenal player, and create a chance for himself. But I mean, everybody else, no way. And yeah, look, reading between the lines, Conte's saying I need players in January because if I get injuries, this team is not gonna do well. They ask him about the game against Lazio on Sunday, and he says surely it's going to be a different game. We'll play at home in another type of competition. Lazio is certainly an excellent team, who's well equipped to play the Europa League. They have a strong team, and they demonstrated it today. But we'll go and play our own game on Sunday. He says, "Are you?" They ask him, "Are you upset about some of the players that played today?" And he says, "No, I'm not upset, because I think they all sort of gave a good effort. I cannot be upset. Everybody wanted to play and passed around. So yeah, it's also good to see if anybody has made any progress since we started. And today we were able to test out some things. They asked him, could you have maybe done some substitutions earlier on to try to salvage the game? And he says, um, look, we made the first substitution on the 70th minute. It was important for me to also understand the level of some of these players, their progress, and it's a bit difficult to do that in 45 minutes. So, I guess the priority for Conte was to examine some of these players rather than actually try to win the game. But yeah, look, fair enough. And then they ask him about defensively, um, sort of how he sees the situation, and he says, "Yeah, look, we had to evaluate this defense after this game. You guys." will create your own evaluations, and I will create mine, and the club will create theirs. This is a perfect game to test out some things, and evaluations are subjective, but mine are the most important. So it goes back to what we said earlier about, okay, so Conte wants to put these players on the field to see if they're any good. I don't think you need to do that. I don't think you need to do that. Guys, I'll grab my charger for 1 second. Excuse me for 2 seconds, okay? One sec. I gotta plug this in. All right. There we go. Otherwise my computer is gonna die. What I was saying is like, yeah, I said it before. Like, I don't think we gotta put Rafa Marin and Juan Jesus on the field to know that they're not good enough. You know? Um, I don't know why you need to make that experiment. Surely you can tell just from the training and your past experience of players like Juan Jesus that some of these guys are not good enough. Then they ask him about Raspadori, and he says, I don't think we need to go into the detail of individual players. Everybody tried hard and gave it their maximum. So I'm only upset. I would only be upset if people didn't try, and everybody did. So yeah. Um, so yeah. Um, Look, that's Conte. Um, it's very clear his mindset. His mindset is that he's extremely, extremely petrified about injuries because he knows he can't rely on these players. Uh, it's clear that he used this game as a testing ground. Um, and yeah, I mean, we spoke about everything about what I feel about that, so there's no need to go through it again. I think the best thing that we can do now is get a win on Sunday. Ideally, guys, if I was the manager now, if I was Conte, what I would do is on Sunday, I would play two of these guys again. Hear me out. Hear me out. You want to show that this was not their one and only chance. And you don't want to give them a chance in a month or 2 months. Like, you want to show them right off the bat that, hey, guys, as a collective, it was not great. Maybe you didn't pass your exam, but there's another opportunity waiting for you sooner rather than later. I would give two of these guys another chance. Maybe, I don't know. Doesn't have to be doesn't have to be something crazy. Like, I'm not saying to start Juan Jesus, right? But I don't know. Neres instead of Politano, you know? Or surprise Lazio and put Simeone again. I don't know. Like, do something where if someone had a decent game today, reward them. Or at least have them come on as a sub, right? Maybe you put your first substitution in the game against Lazio is Folorunsho, for example. I don't know. Um, but yeah, I would try to do something that keeps the group united. Um, and hopefully you can do that if the game is already in a good position. I understand though that it might not be an easy decision. If the game is 0-0, you might not want to do this. But yes, guys, that's how I would do it because I think it's a long season, as Conte said, and man management, the right type of man management, I think might in the long run win you some points. But anyways, guys, I will end the live there. It's past midnight, so guys, hope you had a a nice stream at least if you did not enjoy the game. Thank you to all the members that tuned in. Hello, welcome. Um, and yeah, hopefully you recover, man. Seems rough what you went through. But yeah, thanks to all the members that tune in and support the channel. Thanks to all the just regular subscribers that also tune in and support the channel. Everybody else that is not subscribed, what are you doing, bro? Just subscribe. Also, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm like 10 people away from 5,000. So if you don't subscribe, you're literally mean, man. I mean, you have the opportunity to get me across that that milestone and you're actively choosing not to, even though it's right there. It's like, it's mean, man. Don't do it. As in, don't not subscribe. Just subscribe, okay? Okay, thanks. Guys, with that, I'm gonna end it there. Hope you enjoyed it, and as always, even with the defeat, Forza Napoli sempre, and see you on Sunday night. Ciao.